This is the anime villain arc of Ouyang, a boy who gained not only time-stopping powers, but basically every other power you can think of. He has now given Armin from Attack on Titan the ability to control objects with his mind since he likes his mom and sister. Nonetheless, he's now decided to teach Armin how to get girls, even though as recently as a week ago, he's never had a girlfriend himself. But since he has gained the powers of a demon king, he whips out his phone and calls over Nami. Within seconds, she arrives to meet up with the two at a cafe. Upon arriving, Nami demands to know why Ouyang would ever call over a busy student like her, as she's always studying for her exams. However, Ouyang ignores her question and proceeds to compliment her as she's all dressed up. It's as if she knows she'll be cramming something else, other than cramming study material. Regardless, Ouyang turns to Armin as he grins, explaining to him how girls will come running as soon as he calls them. Unfortunately, Nami is totally shocked by what he just told Armin, but Ouyang turns to her and reminds her to pipe down and lower her voice. In an instant, she obeys, finally remembering that Ouyang is actually a demon king. Too bad though, as his gaze drops down, so he mentions how her peaches look more plump than usual. But before she could reply, he initiates contact as he knows Nami is into public power dynamics. Meanwhile, Armin nervously sips his drink since he's probably never been that close to a girl before. At the same time, Nami whispers to Ouyang, asking him what he's doing in front of Armin. But like always, he ignores her and just commands her to sit down and stop getting angry. Afterwards, we begin to turn into the Protein Man Cultured Street as Milk Boy begins to whisper back, asking her if she didn't forget what she was supposed to do. She then turns to him, absolutely petrified as her words come out of her mouth. Wait, you mean here? But since Ouyang is menace to society, he demands her to spread, like my jelly. Ouyang then cosplays a border patrol guard since he's basically doing a surprise inspection. That's why Nami looks exactly like this. Regardless, Nami begins to quake as Ouyang decides to reward Nami due to her flawless record of obedience. He then grins and stares at her as he continues his inspection in front of Armin without him even stopping time. Eventually, Nami tells him to stop since if he continues, she warns him that she might erupt like a volcano in public. But of course, to be expected with this menace to society, he graces her with even more of his powers. Armin then intervenes, asking if she's alright since he somehow has no clue to what's happening even though they are right in front of him. Nevertheless, Nami is somehow able to gain composure as she replies by claiming that she's perfectly fine. It was at this moment that their faces disappeared, so we all know the author has something up his sleeve. But then, instead of the Sussy Nation attacking, all Ouyang does is introduce the two to each other. He even introduces Nami as his girlfriend to Armin, so Ouyang proceeds to ask him if he thinks Nami is pretty. Armin agrees, but this boy is dumb, as he brings attention to his sister, as he claims Nami is as pretty as his sister. Thus, our Protein King begins to lay his trap cards all around Armin, as he asks if his sister is actually that pretty. He continues on, trying to get more information from Armin, by claiming that maybe she isn't that pretty since he's always surrounded by beautiful women like Nami. He adds that Nami is probably better since she's also studying law in a top university. With Ouyang's demeanor changing as he continues to talk about Nami, Armin begins to notice that something is off. Upon closer look, Armin realizes that Ouyang has started to look at Nami as if he's a beast hunting down the prey, that is Nami. As such, he excuses himself from the table and tells Ouyang that he's heading towards the bathroom. Ouyang then returns to his normal human-like self as he tells Armin to go to the bathroom. Nami then instantly shouts for him to come back as the brilliant lady knows she's in danger if left alone. Her hunch was terrifyingly accurate as Ouyang explodes with power as he activates Stopwatch. Since he gained new abilities from becoming stronger, he chooses Nami to not get frozen in time. Meanwhile, the entire world, including Armin, has stopped right in her tracks. Ouyang then begins to groan with everyone frozen, telling Nami that he couldn't hold back anymore. A banana then abruptly enters the scene, so Ouyang gets up and tells Nami that he's ordering the usual menu. However, she's totally flustered as she's never done anything in public before, not noticing that time is currently stopped. Thus, Ouyang claps back by asking her why she's faking being flustered, as she knew all along what this would all lead to. Nevertheless, Nami begins to stammer, as she asks if they really have to finish the job in such a public place like the cafe. But then, Ouyang actually raised a good point for the first time as he asks her why she actually came with no undies. This is the one time I will side with Milkman, as he actually checkmated her. He then changes the subject as he tells Nami that she's now being rewarded for being so obedient. In spite of what he just said, Nami looks on and tells him that this doesn't feel like a reward. Upon hearing number 3 talk back, Ouyang flashes a stare, exactly the same one that people use on me when I fart beside them. Anyways, Nami then explains that what she really meant is that she feels embarrassed. But, as usual, our Demon King ignores everything she just said and orders clothes to become invisible. However, Nami doesn't move as she's left shocked, so Ouyang reminds her that if they don't turn invisible, instead they'll be ripped like my jeans. As such, she finally looks around and obeys, as she realizes that everyone else is frozen in time. She then continues to obey the Demon King, and upon completion of her task, asks Ouyang if everything looks better now. He agrees, but just like in every sussy anime, he points as he wants Nami to crawl to him. As she completes her second task, Ouyang begins to tease her, as he mentions that he at least waited until fully activated stopwatch. Anyways, ensue your imagination as Nami takes a trip to get a Slurpee so she can slurp it all. Meanwhile, Armin has somehow gained a little bit of consciousness as he asks himself why he cannot move his body a single inch. But Armin is just like me, man, he really needed to go to the toilet, so he begins to curse Ouyang for stopping time. However, he starts hearing what appears to sound like farts, but more wet if you know what I mean. Good thing Armin was looking away when Ouyang stopped time, as Ouyang is always quick to raise the level from 0 to 69. Eventually, our cosplay lover begins to cosplay a jackhammer again as he moves Nami onto the table. Poor Armin, man, first his mom, now he has to stand there, probably thinking someone else is farting an army, while he himself has to go to the bathroom. Nonetheless, the next day arrives without us knowing if Armin made it or if his pants turned brown. Speaking of Armin, we find him still stuck in bed, unable to sleep as he claims that the weird farting noises were too weird since he's never heard them before. But then it dawned on him, was it actually just Ouyang and Nami performing a milk show? Thus, he begins to use his imagination on Nami, but he can't believe it, as she looks so confident and innocent. Anyways, he slaps himself away from his daydreaming, so the young prodigy gets up from bed, still totally frustrated that he's now having distracting thoughts. His monologue then continues as he starts to look sad, claiming that the two lovebirds are adults and it has nothing to do with him. Thus, Armin brings his focus towards his brand new powers. It's then revealed that he can now see the same game notifications like Ouyang, where he discovers that he has partial resistance to Ouyang's stopwatch. Now totally focused to get girls, he begins to train his stamina by doing some push-ups. He ends up training the entire time until dawn. Upon stopping, he gets ready for school and waves goodbye to his mom. Now comment below who you guys think is the best girl so far, since even Jungwon looks like she shaves some of her age every episode. Anyways, at Armin's school, he finally begins to walk with confidence as he feels great due to the powers he has gained from Ouyang. But then one of the bullies bump into him, thus Armin is quick to apologize like his old self. This time though, as the bully is about to strike him, he smacks himself in the face instead, letting Armin go as he's scared of what will happen to him if Ouyang finds out. As such, Armin heads to class, while the bully is absolutely frustrated in not being able to beat up Armin. Nonetheless, Armin starts to think about how much his life can get better, all due to the Demon King Ouyang. Ironically, Armin gets distracted by Minyoung, exactly like how Ouyang was distracted by Ran on his first day at school. As Armin stares at Minyoung, he begins to plan his conquest, totally inspired by the Chad that is Ouyang. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, Jungwon seems to be in trouble. We then discover that her problem is that she cannot stop thinking about the Monster King that is Ouyang. But speak of the devil, once again he arrives. However, this time, he demands a bowl of soup ASAP.